Okay, when I used to homeschool, we used this chart to help us to understand the basic structures of sentences. There are basically 112 different types of sentences that can be made when you combine these different things here. So I'm just going to briefly describe them. So a simple sentence, okay, that is like the boy ran to the store. It's just one sentence. Okay, and then compound sentences are two complete thoughts or two sentences that are stuck together, and they use a conjunction. And a conjunction there, it's like for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Those are all conjunctions that work together to combine two complete sentences together to make them into one. And that's what we call a compound sentence. They work together, all right? And then complex sentence is like it has an incomplete sentence. Well, it's not a sentence, it's a phrase in the middle of a sentence or somewhere in the sentence. So, for example, the boy who lives down the street went to the store. So, who lives down the street is not a complete sentence. It is it's a phrase, and so it does not stand alone. It needs to be supported by a sentence. You can't just pull it out, whereas you could, you know, have two separate sentences there. And then compound complex are just the compound sentence and the complex sentence stuck together. There's four purposes of a sentence. So declarative, the boy ran to the store. That's pretty self-explanatory. Exclamatory, the boy ran to the store. Pretty exciting. Interrogative, did the boy run to the store? And imperative would be run to the store. That's like telling the boy run to the store. And in these sentences, when you're writing your, like for example, here's the bare bones right here. When you're writing it, the subject would be you with parentheses around it, because the subject is implied. It's like you wouldn't say to your kid, you run to the store. It's implied. You're talking to that kid, so you'd say run to the store. And so they're command sentences is what they are. And I don't want to go over the 7 patterns too much, because you have to go into depth for those. But basically, it's just breaking them down into those diagrams. So you have like the subject, the verb, intransitives, subject, verb, transitive. Transitive just means it transfers meaning or whatever to the predicate. Or the direct object or whatever it is. So like verb intransitive it doesn't transfer anything. It's not transitive. It's not transferring. And so like you have linking verbs, and I talked about those, like I talked about the linking verb, and then I did talk about predicate adjectives. They point back to the subject. This one is describing the subject, where this one is renaming the subject. Predicate nominative. Nominative, nomen means name. In Portuguese, nome is name. Qual é seu nome? That's like, what's your name? So nomen means names. You're renaming. And it's called a predicate because it's in the predicate part of the sentence. And then you have and then it always has a linking verb. It's linked by something. So it's like Jesus equals, or Jesus equals God. You know, you can put the equal sign in there, and that's how you know if it's a predicate nominative or a predicate adjective, because it's renaming or describing exactly what's in the subject. So anyway, and then there's these other ones that we don't need to talk about right now. But then there's, to know if it's a sentence for sure, it always has to have a subject, it always has to have a verb, and there's a capital letter and mark, and it has to make complete sense. So that's pretty self-explanatory. And then the last thing are the 8 parts of speech. You have nouns, that's a person, place, thing, idea, activity. It can be like love can be a noun. That's an idea. Running is a noun. If you said running is help thee or whatever. Running is actually what they call a gerund. It actually sounds like a verb, but in this case it's being used as a noun. Running, because running would be the subject, and a subject has to be a noun. So you have a pronoun. Then you have pronouns, which replaces a noun to avoid repetition. So you have like he went to the store instead of John went to the store. Same thing. He would be the pronoun. And then you have verbs, which obviously are the actions. They show being or existence. So you have, and sometimes there's more than one. So they have helping verbs. So when you're when you're looking at a sentence trying to find the verb, it could be more than one verb if it's a helping verb, and another verb. And the next one is an adverb, and these they modify verbs, they modify adjectives and other adverbs. And usually you can tell an adverb because they'll answer the questions how did the boy run, when did the boy run, where did the boy run, why did the boy run, and to what extent did he run. So the adverb that would answer that question, that's what an adverb is. And then conjunctions we've talked about. They connect clauses and phrases. Talked about fanboys. They're correlative, subordinating. There's all different kinds of conjunctions, but they combine things together. Interjections are like expressions that show emotion, like whoa, or brilliant, or swearing, you know, I say a swear word or whatever. So interjections, and a lot of times I'll tell my son, because he loves to interrupt, and so I'm like, hey, don't interject, stop interjecting, you know. Anyways, so that's interjection. And preposition we've talked about, they relate a noun or a pronoun to another word. They have objects. There's got to be some kind of a noun or something attached to them, okay? And then adjectives, they modify nouns, and they will ask like what kind, which one, how many, whose. So for example, what kind of candy bar, which candy bar, how many candy bars, and whose candy bar. So what kind of candy bar? It was a Snickers bar. Which one? The small candy bar, whatever. How many? 5 candy bars. Whose candy bar? The boy's candy bar. So even like a lot of times adjectives, they show possession. So if it's an apostrophe S or whatever, that's usually an adjective that's describing something. So Dana's car, Dana's D-A-N-A apostrophe S would be the adjective describing the car. So anyways, if you understand these basic things, they help a ton in figuring out sentences. So I hope that helps.